how to repair or how to manufacture a door latch cable assembly for a 2002 SC430. It's a Lexus. It is a car I just bought a couple of months ago, and been fixing it up. There's not a whole lot wrong with it, but then one day the passenger side door latch wouldn't open the door from the inside. The outside worked just fine, but the inside didn't, and that caused caused my wife all sorts of problems, and so she's been pestering me to fix it. So anyway, got online and looked to find a part, and there's some great information online at the Lexus forums and such. But one thing that became clearly evident right away was that Lexus doesn't sell just the cable. They want you to buy the whole cable assembly, and the whole cable assembly is in total about $200 or more if you buy it from a Lexus dealer for $200 on eBay. You might get them as cheap as $149. I'm a cheap Mexican, so I don't like to spend $149 just for a cable when everything else is fine with the car. So the actuator itself is something that's it locks the doors. This is what works with your remote. It'll get the signal, lock the door and unlock the door and things like that. I don't need it. That works just fine on my car. The lock itself, the little part on the top of the lock inside the door, it works just fine. What you can't do is you can't use the chrome lever to open the door. So that's a simple mechanical fix. I'm an electrical engineer, but this kind of mechanical stuff I can deal with. And so I'm going to show you some things, explain a few things, and then we're going to try this right from the get-go. I've never done this before for this cable, but I think it's doable. And I've got a couple different options, and one of the two is going to work. And when I get it working, I'm going to post this on my Lexus forum, and people can see how they can save themselves a couple of dollars. So I'm going to go over some parts. I'm going to turn this camera around, and we will go over some of the other, go over the entire scenario, and then I'll cut in and out, as I'm not going to waste your time watching me manufacture or whittle down things. I'm just going to explain what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show the final product when I'm done. And that's it. In a little bit, here I'm going to show you some stuff. Okay, so this is the diagram I pulled down from online, and just to show you what we're talking about here, in case you're not a little lost on this or new to this, but this here is the lock actuator assembly. This is the $200 part that you can buy on eBay if you have a problem with either one of these two cables. Those two cables right there, as you see coming out of there, you cannot buy those. So if one of them goes bad, you have to buy the whole actuator assembly to get a brand new one. But we're going to try it, like I say, to manufacture one. The one I'm going to be working on is this bottom one. This bottom one goes to the chrome latch on the inside door on the passenger side. I'm assuming that the driver door is probably the same length and probably not any different. So if you have a driver door issue, I think it's worth taking apart and looking at it. It's very easy, I thought, to get this assembly out of the car. I read some things on the forums that made it sound like it was really super hard. And one guy talked about taking the window off. And no, you don't have to do that. It's really very easy. I pulled this out in probably 15 minutes, and I put it back in 5. And it's in the car now because I needed it to be able to close the door while I went out and bought these parts that I'm going to show you here. Okay, so here's the actual disassembled latch cable. You can see on this end here, I pulled the cable out of the sleeve because over on this end, you see, is where it broke. This little ball was stuck inside the door latch, and the cable was disconnected. So I just pulled it all out of here. The green end here is what goes into the door latch, and there's a place over here where it fastens onto the side of the car. And that clip stays on the door. And then it comes down. These foam things, I don't know what they're for, but I didn't want to take them off. And then here on this end, this is the part that goes into the actual actuator. On the actuator end, you can see that it is one of those round, barrel-y looking things, okay? And over here on the latch, is a little ball. And you see they're soldered in, and this is where the problem comes in. It's hard to find a bicycle. I thought about doing bicycle cables when this first happened. I thought, well, let's just stick a bicycle cable in. And then I figured I'd get something like this, and that somehow or other I could make it work. You know, and I probably could. That's probably a good fix. But the problem was that when I went out and bought a bicycle cable, you see here, it is much, much, much thicker. It's kind of hard to tell on this film, but it's much bigger than the cable that they use for this door latch. So what that means is that you when you try and slide this in and try and get that to come all the way to the other end of the sheath, you're not going to do it. So I thought maybe it was just at the very beginning that this, so maybe this was a little narrow at this end, but I drilled in a little bit and tried to get it in there. It will not go in there, so I quickly gave up on that idea. And then I got on the internet, not knowing what else to do, and I searched and I searched and I searched, and I came across this company, and see, I get a good thing there, a good image there. It's called Dorman. You can find them. They sell parts through auto parts stores, and you know, AutoZone or any of those will sell Dorman, and these are actual door latch cables, but they make them for Chevrolets and Cadillacs, and apparently this is a popular idea in the automobile industry on how to get doors to open from the inside. So anyway, there's the part number on it, 924-362. Remember that part number because they make a gazillion of these, none of them for a Lexus. This is not made for a Lexus, but I'll tell you why this is important. Because this cable was the only one I found on their website that measured out to be just a little bit bigger than what Lexus sells. So it's just a tiny hair bigger. 27 inches is what this comes out to be. The original cable, this is like 27.1. So it's pretty darn close. The problem with this, of course, you see, is that the connector ends, these little ends right here, are just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to have to take the little knife to this. I'm going to whittle away at this so it matches. And it's actually, this is backwards. I'm going to, well, no, it's not. Yeah, it is backwards here. This end over here is what I am going to put into the actuator end. And then, oh, wait a minute. Let me think about that for a while. No, I think that actually this is better. Yeah, this one here is actually going to be used for the actuator end. Just to get this clear, I was right there all along. If you look at this end over here, there it is right there. Oops. See, this is a closer match to this. The ball on the other end is quite a bit smaller than what came out of the car. A little bit smaller. But the way it's designed with the latch, it won't come through the latch. I think it'll be just fine. The other problem that I'm finding out is that you see, if you measure just the sheath from one end all the way to the other end, it is, I think, significantly larger. And that's going to cause a problem. This is about 22 inches, and the original, I'm sorry, this is 25, the original is 25 inches, and this is 26 inches, the whole inch difference. So I think what I'm going to have to do, because what will happen if you don't, it'll bind, and it'll bind in an open and closed position unless I can get, there's about an inch of cable that has to stick out of this end, and about an inch of cable that has to stick out of this end for it to work properly. I believe. I'll find out as I get into this. But I believe what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to cut this just about, I'm going to measure these two ends and find out just about how much I need to cut off, and to make this sheath the same size as this sheath here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it round, and I'm going to split it, and I'm going to let one end ride over the other. And then I'm going to use this fancy dancy new stuff. I just found out about this the other day, and I just loved it. I tried it on a thing. It's called 5-second fix. And I don't know if I need it, but I'd rather over-engineer it than under-engineer it, especially if I'm the one that has to fix the problem. And the way this thing works is it's a little glue gun. You pop off the end right here, and you just squeeze the juice out of there, and it's not glue. And then once you squeeze the juice off, then you use this little light at the other end. And there's a little switch right here. You turn this on and off. There it's on. See, off. And that light is what actually gets the glue to harden. It actually bonds. This is the door panel for the window and the auto window here and the door lock. This came off of my car. I had to take this off in order to get the door panel out. And when I did that, I did it a couple times, and the second time I did it, I broke this end off. And not that I was being hard with it or anything, but it's, you know, plastic gets old, and these things are going to happen. And I put a little crazy glue on that at first, and then that just held it in place. And then I squeezed the juice on there, as they say, and used the light, and I'm telling you, this thing just feels solid. I don't think I'm going to have any more problems with that. So I've fallen in love with this stuff. Once I get this sheath pulled up, and I get this sheath to be the same size as the original, put a little bit of glue on there, and then the bonding stuff. I'll be very careful not to get that inside and bind the cable. That would not be a good thing. And then I'm going to use a little of this heat shrink, and I'll put the heat shrink on there and heat shrink it down to keep dirt and other bad things out of there. And I think that's going to work. But I am going to go ahead and I am going to take this thing apart and do what I said I was going to do. And then I'm going to post immediately what the results are and show you the end result. And once I do that and put this back in the door, and if it works, and I'm pretty sure it will, then what I am going to do, this is going to back them, because you know what the rule is, if it's like with headlights, one headlight goes out, you know the other one's going to go out. They're both the same age. They both last about the same amount of time. So this cable here, what I am going to do is I'm going to cut this cable here, and I'm going to cut it over here, and I'm going to get a standard bicycle cable sheath, and I'm going to ride it over there, and then using the super duper glue gun, glue it on there, and the same over here, making sure I keep the original length. Then I'm going to run this regular bicycle cable through there, and now I'll be able to do it because the cable sheath will be wide enough. Come out the other end by this stuff, put one of these little ends on there, and I think that'll fix it too. And you might want to try that at home yourself. I'll do this after this one, so I have a backup when the driver door goes out. And if you do, if you try it and it works for you, thank you, and please post that on YouTube and let me know, and then I'll hook that and link that to the forums, Lexus forum site, so other people can do the same thing. This total and cost, I think this, I forgot to mention, I think this thing costs, I bought it on Amazon, I think I paid $27 for it or something like that, and I paid another $7 or $8 to get it here on Friday, and so I didn't have to wait till Monday to start working on it. So it came in yesterday, and I'm super excited about getting this project going, and I will get back with you all here in just a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is see how this end fits. I've carved on it a little bit, but not before I knew what I was doing. And I decided to come and check it first, and I realized that after I got it in there that this thing actually fits in there pretty good, except I got to cut off a little bit of the wing on each end. And I think if I cut it off at the wings on each end, then I'll be able to just slide that in, and those little wings will hold it fast against that little plastic thing there. And I may just put a little tape just to make sure it holds on there real good. But I'm going to give that a try, and we'll see what happens. And then next I'm going to have to pull out the actuator from the car. That should take like 5 minutes. And then I'll check the other end over here and see how that fits on that end. And once I got the connector ends working and fitting into the car door and into the actuator, then I can go ahead now, like I said, I'm going to cut right there a little round, completely around, and splice it a little bit and ride one end over the other so that this cable here is just as long as the cable that originally came out of the car, the cable sheath. And so anyway, that's it for now. Be back in just a bit. Okay, I'm back, and I've learned a very important lesson. Unfortunately, I didn't mess up. I'm very conservative when I work on these kind of jobs, so what I did was I just cut one of the wings off and not the other wings, and it's a good thing I did, because I found out afterwards that this thing actually fits in pretty good if you just cut one of the wings off so that it doesn't interfere. And there you go. You see, I cut one wing off, and the other wing is pressing up against the plastic base, and that's holding everything in line pretty good. And when I open and use the latch, it seems to be working nice and smooth and beautifully. So I think that's all the modification I have to do on the door end to the connector, and that's great news. It's easy. Anyone can do it. I just used a regular, knife that you find in any workbench. That's the one I used, and it worked just fine. So you got something like that, or maybe an X-Acto knife would do the same thing. Anyway, give it a try. It's not hard, and I think this is on a skill level maybe a 1. So anyway, let me try the other end now. Okay, so I'm going to take the actuator off now, and there's a lot of good videos on this. I just wanted to point out a couple things here that I like to do, and I'm just going to give these as pointers. And there's also a little trick to get an actuator off that I wanted to show. Okay, so you see I took one of the bolts off already. I've got 3 more bolts. This panel will give you access to the inside of the door. You got to take that off to get to the actuator, and that's just straightforward. One of the things I always do, and I recommend this highly, and I may do this because I'm anal, I don't know, but I'm super conservative. I'll take all the bolts, I'll put them in an envelope, I'll seal it, and that way I know I can't lose any of the bolts when I want to go put them back on. I've also got an envelope, I pre-made it for the actuator. I've got one part in there already because I didn't add a little part that's right there, a little screw, and it was just a cosmetic more than anything else. So I left it off when I reinstalled the actuator last time. And since I didn't plan to be using this door much anyway until I got it fixed. So anyway, the thing I wanted to show you was here. When I took it off last time, I peeled this little piece of plastic off here, and then I retaped it with a little packing tape. You can use Scotch tape. And see that little thing there, you want to put that back on when you take it off because it keeps dirt and wind from coming in. But once you take that off, you'll be able to look down in there, and you'll be able to see a little latchy thing, and I'm going to try and show that to you later on. But once you unhook the latch, you're going to take your a screwdriver down in there, and you're going to push it from the back side, and it'll kind of pop right out. And it's really super easy to do. The actuator, then you're going to remove a number of screws here and over here on this side of the door. And this thing is just going to fall right down when it does it, and you'll be able to pull that right out over here, and this cable right here will go with it. But anyway, once I get this panel off, I'll cut back in and see if I can show you how to do that little latchy thing. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to see if I can show you this. What we're going to do is remove this little I'm trying to do everything here at once, so it's kind of hard. Let me focus back in there. There's this little cable. See if I can get to it. I'm sorry, plastic got in the way. I'm coming in from one side there, and I'm going to try and show you there. There you see that little metallic thing. There's that little plastic clip there. You can see a real good shot of it. That plastic clip gets pushed straight back towards you, where it fastens. It's a double clip. It clips on 2 different places. So what I'm going to do is try and see if I can show you how you just pull that. And it's kind of hard to do this with one hand, but I'm going to try and do it. Okay, you're going to take both fingers. Yep, see? Just pop right off like that. And you pull that up, and then you just pull back with your finger. I was able to get it with my finger. And now you see this little bar thing is sticking, and it's free. And trust me, to put it back on, it's just as easy as it was to take it off. It's not hard at all, and I don't have I got short, fat hands and arms, so if I could do it, I think anybody can. And I will now then, once I take the screws off, this thing's just going to fall right out. I'm not going to bother showing you that because there's a lot of good videos out there that will explain how to take an actuator out. And that's how I learned. So go back online and you can learn all about that. Okay, I've gotten the actuator out. It's connected electronically on this connector here, and it's a It's a real funny connector to take off. I don't even remember how I took it off last time. I had to use a pair of pliers because you have to press down on that tab, and really hard. It's harder than my fat fingers could press. So I got a pair of pliers. I pushed that down, that popped right off. The other thing you're going to have to do is, in order to get to where the connectors are tied in, the connectors are back there. You see, there's the one that goes to the door lock. The door latch is on this side. And in order to connect it, you got to take this ugly piece of plastic off. But it's no big deal. There's only one screw right there. Take that screw off, and there's a little tab right there you have to press down. And there's another tab on the bottom. I may or may not have put that in right when I put it in, because I wasn't interested in putting it back together right when I installed it. So I'm going to do those two things, and this plastic thing will come right off, and I'll show you how to connect the other end of the cable. Okay, so I'm back. I've got the actuator off, and there you can see it. I took that plastic thing off, and that's what's on the other side of the plastic. This one here, again, is a door lock cable. And here's the door latch cable that I bought. And right away, there's some bad news. And not unexpected, but because we did know the connector ends were different. But it doesn't look like this connector end is going to be able to go right in easily. I'm going to have to trim some edges off so I can slide it in and then turn the cable around this way so it locks in place. The good news is that I don't think I'm going to have to do much shaping. Okay, I'm back, and good news. Okay, so I did a little more thinking about it, and I haven't cut this little bulb here. What I did was put a little blue mark and a little red mark on top, so I can make sure I don't cut too much of it off. I just want to cut two sides off so it can fit in. I don't need to cut the top or the bottom, and I don't want to cut the top or the bottom. And the other thing I realized was that I had to be sure that this side here, this clip, how I put this on, would allow the other end to fit in properly into the door latch. So here it is. Here's the actuator. I actually have my back panel there for the door. This actuator is going to be sitting, I'm doing this all one-handed, so it's hard, somewhere right about here. You see where that's where the door latch is at, right there. So this is going to be right about here. And these cables are going to run just like this. The door latch is on top, as I said before, and the door lock is on top. And this is the door lock. That's for the locking mechanism. And then this is the door latch. And so why it's important that you get one side and not the other is because you see when you put this end here, you want it to fit in properly. And you want to be able to get this in here and have it hit snugly and securely. And this is and because of the way this thing is made, you have to be sure that you cut this right. You want the wings on this end here to be on the top and the bottom of the frame. And so you got to do a little bit more. You got to carve that other end out so it fits in properly. So anyway, that being said, all I have to do now is just cut this little thing here and fit it all in, and then get the door panel back, get the actuator back in, the door panel back in, and we'll test it all out. So far it's looking good. Come back later. Okay, so I'm trimming this end here, and I can get it in now. But one important thing I discovered was that this little cap rotates. It doesn't sit firmly on the little thingamajigger there. And so what I'm gonna do, I cut a little bit too much off on that end, and not quite enough on that end. I was able to put it in there, and it's fit in real snug. So I'm not gonna shave any more off because I can get it in there, and it stays, and that's the important thing. And I will let the guy who has to take this apart next time worry about how to get it out. But what I'm gonna do now is use that glue stuff, and it's gonna take me 2 hands to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply it, and then I'll show you the end results. I might even cut in and show you the ultraviolet light part of it. Okay, so I'm back. I've applied the bonding material on there. I haven't put the UV light on, and I just you can't really see it, but then you're going to take this little tool here, you're going to turn the light on, and then you're just going to see if I can do this, and I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. And you just put this UV light up there against it, And I like to leave it on for, it says 5-second fix, but I don't know. I'd rather err on the side of caution. And I'm going to go ahead and just bond it for a few seconds here. It doesn't get hot, by the way. It's just it's going to bond. This stuff apparently says it bonds metal to plastic and plastic to plastic and metal to metal. I don't know how that works, but that's what it says it does. And so, okay, so that's it. And let's see if I can do a one-handed check and see how that, if that thing in fact did bond. And good. Yep, not rotating anymore. It doesn't slide off. It's permanent against that little ball thing now. So that'll make it easier to get off in the event someone needs to take it off again. It makes it a little easier to shave off the edges too. So if I was to do this all over again, I would have started with that step first. Okay, so let's start over on this end. There it is. Got that little ball joint in. Got this piece firmly seated, so I do a little carving, otherwise it's good. And then you can see, just as I predicted, you get on this end, there's not enough play because this cable is a little bit too long. And the connectors are just the way I want them. So what I'm going to have to do then is just going to do this, cut this sheathing a little bit, about 3/4 of an inch is my estimate right now, based on the original. And once I do that, I'm going to see if I can slip on. Well, let me just go ahead and cut that, and then I'm going to use that bonding material, and I'll come back when I put that bonding material on, so you can see where I'm at. And I'm going to try putting some heat shrink on there, and then we'll should have a good clean cable then. And after that, it should be able to just plug right on and work. So one other thing I will mention is that this fix I'm giving you for the latch cable is not the same, not going to be the same as it is for the lock cable, because the locking cable, you come on this end, you will see that there's no ball in there. What it is it's that goofy little thing that they like to do sometimes with bicycle cables, and I can't get a good shot of this. But what it is that there's a little bend in this wire. It's like a solid wire. This is a braided wire over here, and this is a solid wire, and it bends right there, and it hooks down. So to remove this, you take it off of here, and then you bend it up, and it pops right out. So when this goes, there's going to be a different fix for it, but when that time comes, I'll figure something out. So anyway, that's it for now. I'll come back when I'm done cutting the cable sheath. Okay, so there's one minor setback, as you can see here. I cut through the outer cable, and apparently this is a steel-lined cable. Steel braided line, so it's going to be a little bit more work cutting through there than I had anticipated, but I still believe I can do this, and I just need to peel it back a 1/2 inch and bring it up, and shorten this whole cable by actually a 1/4 inch, and shorten it all up by 1/2 inch if I can ride one over the other. So let me go ahead. I just may just cut a 1/2 inch off and just see if I can get the braid to come up. That's another option, but well, let's see what I can do. I'll go from there in a little bit. Let you know what I decided. Okay, so here we got it. I've cut back a 1/2 inch. You can see the steel banding in there. What I'm going to try and do is stick a little screwdriver underneath there and pull it up and kind of make it blossom out, I guess is the best way to put it. I've got this little thing here I've got for watch repairs. I'm talking to myself. I'm doing a video, and that's my wife interrupting us. And so now I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to pop it out in the middle with this little screwdriver, a little hammer. There, I got a little screwdriver right here, you see. And I'm going to put this little screwdriver in there, in between the strands. Gonna knock out with a hammer. Gonna try and pull it up, and we'll see how that works. And I'll get back with you with the results. So I'm gonna try and explain this one-handed. I put some light in here. So I got the sheathing, the metal strand separated a little bit. And inside the metal strand, of course, is a plastic liner that wraps around the cable. That makes perfectly good sense. You want that cable to be running against a smooth surface. You don't want it to be rubbing against these metal bands. That would stiffen the ride, so to speak. And you know, we all like our door handles to work nice and smooth. We don't like to have that rough feel. So that's why that little plastic sheathing is there underneath the metal strand. So it's a little difficult to take that out. You got to take it out in pieces. You got to slice lengthwise because you don't really want. I thought about cutting those metal bands, and I decided against it because I think it gives the cable some structural integrity that I'm assuming it needs. I will let my brethren in the automotive industry, I guess they made that decision, and I don't want to second guess them, so I'm going to leave the metal braids intact, pulled out but intact. I'm not going to cut them, and I think that cable make the cable a little stiffer, which I'm assuming it has to be. But I need to get rid of that little plastic inner liner first because it will not shorten until I get that plastic inner liner cut. All right, so back at you in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So what I found out is that you can pull these out, and I tried to bring the two ends together of the cable after I had pulled the wires and tried to blossom them out, and it's just impossible to do. What I did discover, though, was that the cables aren't tied up at the end over here. You can pull them right out of here. And then, so what I'm going to do is pull them all out. I'm going to pull all these wires out. I am going to wrap them around the outside of the cable sheath. And then I was going to put on a little heat sink, not heat sink, what am I saying? A little, what do we call these things again? Heat shrink. Yeah, heat shrink on there. And that'll seal everything up. I found out a 1/2 inch heat shrink will fit over that fat end right there, and then we'll bring it down over here and cover up all the metal wires and stuff. So I bought a bag full of them, so that'll be the last thing I do. Once I put that heat shrink on there, I'll be able to go ahead and get done. When I get to the heat shrink part of it, I will come back on and show you how what I'm doing. Okay, I'm back now. Things didn't turn out quite the way I thought they would. It was a bloody mess trying to get these steel things to try and lay on top. And you know, by the time I had done it, you know, because I'm kind of exploring here, I had bent these wires up so many different ways that they just wouldn't lay straight. So I thought, we're not talking about too much distance here without that steel reinforcing cabling in there, so I don't think it's going to affect function. So I just went ahead and snipped them on this end over here. Now I'm going to put some little electrical tape on there, put some heat sink, and then I'm going to finish up the job. As you can see now, we got a little bit more play in the front, and that little 1/2 inch, I think it's going to do the job. I didn't want to make it too long. I'd rather make it too short and have to come back and I'd rather make the cable a little too long, the cable sheath, and then come back and snip it back a little bit more if I have to, than to make it too long, because too long would cause a problem with the ball end popping out, and so I didn't want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and tape it up and install it now and see how that works. If it works fine, we're good. If not, I'll come back and shorten that cable up a little bit. More later. Okay, so here's the thing. Heat shrink only goes down, shrinks down so far, and I did not have enough tape for it to make a nice tight wrap around the tape. It's probably not real important to have the heat shrink on there. I like to put it on there only because it really makes it nice and clean, and I think it seals better, and then I don't have to worry about the tape peeling off inside the door for whatever reason. Another thing I didn't mention earlier is the reason I cut it over on this side with the ball end is because in the event that something goes wrong and I have to get back in here and do some more repairs, I can do that by just taking the door paneling off, and I won't have to take the actuator off. That'll save a lot of work, and I don't anticipate there's any problems, but being the anal nerd that I am, I always do stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and put this heat shrink on. If you're not familiar with heat shrink, I'll I won't be able to show you. I'm sure there's some videos out there on YouTube that'll show you how to use it. But I'm trying to film all this and with one hand, and it really takes two hands to hold it and apply the heat. So I'm gonna let you figure that out on your own. Okay, this is it. There's stuff with the heat shrink on it. You see, it does make it look a lot cleaner. It kind of covers up the ugly mess, and it's like hiding the evidence, I guess you could say. It fits in real good. I wanted to see how much slack I had over on this end where the ball goes in. It looks like I got plenty there, and there's going to be plenty over here. This is going to fit right about this part on the door, a little further in, I think. But yeah, it should be a good fit. I think we're good to go. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting this on, and I'll cut back in important parts. There's a couple things I wanted to show about installing or uninstalling the door that I didn't get the door thingy here. I saw a lot of videos on how to remove that panel, and there was one important critical piece of information that was, I don't know, left out or for whatever reason not explained. But I'll show you a little trick for getting that off. And anyway, let's go back to the car, and I'm going to start putting everything back together. Okay, I've got the actuator cover back on, and I decided to film this just to point out something that I didn't catch when I was doing the modification on the cable end. I don't think it's important. I'm really just going to ignore it, but I just wanted to point this out. When I put this connector on right here, I probably should have shaved the other end, the end that had that little red tag on it. You can see a little bit of the red right there. Because there's a little clip. That little clip on the end is part of what's holding that connector in place. And that should stick out far enough that this snaps in underneath it. It's not important, I don't think, because for one, it's held on there. There's also a clip over here on this end. And then when it finally goes into the door, there is a screw that comes in from this side, from the back side, and holds that up against the frame of the door. So I don't think it's going to make a difference. I'm not going to worry about it, but I did just want to point that out. When you do this, if you do this project yourself, you might want to modify that or find some way around that, work around it. And if you do, please let me know. I'd like to see that. Okay, just coming back real quick to show something here. This top cable here is the latch, the door lock, and this is the latch that I just repaired. On the latch, there's a like this thing has a little foamy thing here. The latch has a rubbery thing here, and I had to cut that back a little bit because I could not get I had to get that cable into that little connector. That connector is important. It holds that cable securely in place so that when you're opening and closing the door, this cable is not wobbling and moving around. So it's important to get it in there. And if you break that, well, you need to find some other way to secure it. But anyway, you're gonna have to, while you still got the cable back in your shop, you want to cut that back a little ways. Piece I took off is just about that big, so you can see where it kind of like just took a little too much, just a little bit too long. That's probably about 1.5 inches right there. Anyway, almost done here. Be back later. Okay, so here you're looking at the inside of the door panel. I just wanted to bring you back real quick to show you this. There's this, the last thing you do when you take off a door panel, this is the little tip I was going to give you that nobody mentions in any of these things. They just talk about removing all the screws, and then you lift up and this thing magically just pops up. And they're doing it after they've already done what I'm going to show you how to do. Because this thing will not pop up, and you know, this is old plastic and old material and old leather. And I guarantee you, if you roughhouse it and try and push it out of there or pull it up or beat on it, you're just going to break something. Now, when I had it on there, you're going to be able to pull this back. And I'm going to show you here on the door. This is going to go right up in here. I'm trying to do this all with one hand, so let me put the camera down for a little bit. All right, so when it's sitting on that edge, that top edge that I just showed you, it's riding right along in there. And in all the videos, they say you just take this and you lift it up, and it comes right up just like that. And that's the best way this shows up on the videos. When in fact, what they probably had to do is the same thing I did. This thing pulls out enough on the bottom when it's just hinging on the top that when I looked down there, I saw these metal straps. And so what I did was I took one of these. I think you can see that okay. And I got up underneath it while it was still on the door, and I put that right there against metal, and I pushed up as hard as I could on that thing, and it actually bent that thing a little bit. I straightened it out. I had to use so much force that it bent it, but once it popped up, it was fine. And I don't think I could have got that up without having done that. There's 3 straps, metal straps. There's one way over there too, but this one here is closest to the door. It's also the shortest distance, so even fat chubby arms like mine can get in there and just pop it right up. Anyway, that's the tip I wanted to give you. Okay, here's a quick update. I mistakenly showed you before that I had the latch cable on the bottom. Latch cable really belongs on the top, and the lock cable belongs on the bottom. This is the one I made. The one I just made goes on top, and this is the one on the bottom. I guess this is why you should always take pictures as you take something apart, but I didn't on this one. So anyway, that's the correction. So okay, so I just laid the door onto the panel onto the door just to give this thing a test out. I haven't put any screws back in. It's just laying there. I want to make sure everything is working before I put it all back together. So this is the first test to see whether I can unlock the door from the inside. Okay, let's see. So that works. Let's see if I messed anything up. I'm going to see if I can lock the doors. Oh, can't lock the door when it's open. That's right. I knew that. Oh. Well, something's going on here. Let me figure it out. Okay, I'm back. I figured out. The window was down, so you can't lock the door when the window's down. The other thing was that I had, since I don't have this all securely put in place the way it's supposed to be, the little door thing here that tells the car that the door is locked wasn't pushed down. So I put a rag in there, and that's just for testing purposes. And then once the rag is in there, then and I hit the, oh, don't have it on there good enough. You gotta really wrap it up. You gotta shut that down tight. You hear it locked. It's locked. It's unlocked. Oops. You have to hit it twice to get the passenger door to unlock. And there it is. So, it works, and I didn't miss. The door works, the latch works, the lock works. I didn't mess anything up, so I'm going to go ahead and put everything together, and I'll see you then. Okay, I got everything put away. Doors back in order, as you can see. Everything went right back the way it should. Door locks are in place. I got going to control the doors from this side just to test to make sure they're still working, and I didn't mess anything up. So here goes. Oh, that's the window. That's working. This door's open. Door's locked. Door's open. And the door opens. I hadn't been able to do that for a couple of weeks. The wife is getting really upset. So, gentlemen, it looks like my work here is done. Now, again, I did this because Lexus no longer does not sell the cable for the latch or the lock. You have to buy the actuator assembly, and that runs upwards of about $200 on eBay. You can pay more if you go to Lexus. At eBay, you'll spend $200, and that's just to replace the silly cable. So what I did was, just to recap, I purchased a Dorman. It's called D-O-R-M-A-N cable 924-362. I bought that on Amazon for about $27, $28. Paid a little extra for a little quicker shipping. I spent a little bit of money on these heat shields that I put on, which you may or may not want to use, and of course I use a little duct tape. You're going to have some kind of electrical tape or something to tape up the two ends of the cable. And anyway, it was quite an experience. I learned an awful lot. I hope you did too. And you know, I just wanted to say that it was a real experience for me. I learned a lot, and now I did mention that I have another fix using the original cable shielding. I'm going to try and jerry rig something up for that, so that when I have to fix the driver's door, which will probably be next, I'll have the cable ready to go. If you have any questions, don't forget just to go ahead and send me an email or message me or something. And if you tried this yourself and you have some hints and some tips, please share them with me. Anyway, that's it for now. Talk to you later.